Hey, little queen. So, if you do remember from the last episode, you can watch the bourgeoisie murder video that they showed that Darlene was with on Halloween with Elliot that they were watching. And you can also see the Mr. Robot VR. I know it's on YouTube, also on their YouTube channel. And of course, you can see the after show of The Verge. But if you do remember from my old vlog, this is from South by Southwest. It has the little tag on the back. They printed in there. You can watch that vlog again. And also, um, this is episode 5. I know in my previous video I was a little confused. I was like, well, depending on how you go by it. Because I was thinking like the part 1 and part 2, even though they are 2 separate episodes, I was like, maybe it's just episode 1, just cut into 2 parts. But no, we are in episode 5 when I did like message like Mr. Robot and stuff. And again, please, please, please comment down below. Like and subscribe or something if you want to know if I can message Mr. Robot and them. If they can make a Funko Pop of Mr. Robot. This is Lady Gaga from American Horror Story that I got sent. So if you do want to see like a Mr. Robot Funko Pop, please tell me and I can like email them and message them and be like, hey, like we should do this. But also my pen ran out, so I had to go through a basic blue pen. But this is episode 5. This is Logic Bomb. So getting into it. So we do see a preview of the previous episode with Tyrell's gift. You know, we see the Raspberry Pi. We see Angela when she's at the train platform with Elliot. And then we see Darlene again, and then the crash. We see Craig Robinson's character, Ray, and we do get to see a little bit of White Rose. Now, I have mentioned this in the previous season's recaps where I say these usually foreshadow. If it's not something in this episode, it's going to be something that either plays a major part in the whole season, or again, it's just going to pop up, we're going to be referenced to it, and then later on in the same exact season, then maybe it'll be referenced again, built upon, but it's obviously going to play bigger roles, or are, like they say, little Easter eggs that you have to piece together yourself and stuff, and obviously they will talk about him on The Verge and Twitter if you follow Who is Mr. Robot, and like Sam Esmail, Curly Chaikin, Portia Doubleday, Christian Slater, not so much Rami because he doesn't really tweet so much and stuff, but I mean, if you follow them on any social media, they will say a little bit of stuff, and also on Reddit, I know they make threads and they talk in the threads there. So, it opens up with Elliot on the computer. If you do remember, he was with Ray, Craig Robinson's character, and he basically gave him an assignment, a job, a task, kind of unofficially because Elliot kind of took it upon himself to do it, blah, blah, blah. If you do remember, Elliot didn't remember talking to Craig Robinson's character. He was just like, no, like, I'm not going to help you. And he was just like, you really don't remember like our conversation and stuff. So obviously we do have to keep in mind, or the fact that Elliot does have 2 halves, not really a personality but a brain, like a disorder in a way, so to speak, because it is Mr. Robot and it is Elliot. And Mr. Robot even said in like the first episodes, like, hey, like if I do this, is it me or is it you? Since Elliot is Mr. Robot is Elliot. So, you know, we did see that in finale when he's like choking Mr. Robot and holding him against the wall. He's really like choking himself. So it's that kind of a thing. And he's going through coding and stuff, and he talks about the FBI, and he talks about when he was like 11 or 12 or something like that, and how he was like hacking the library, and how that was a test just to see if he could like get into the servers and everything like this. And then he talks about like the malware and how it'll self-corrupt or explode and anything like this if like they kind of tried anything. And this is kind of reminiscent to Darlene when she had mentioned the 5.9 hack of how they said that, oh, we're going to get all the data, it's just encrypted, but in reality nothing's there, or it was like too destroyed to the point that like it looks hopeful, but in reality they'll never like be able to piece everything back together. And then he says like he's gonna like basically get the Android phone that every FBI person has, and he's gonna hack all of them and eCorp's network. And then there's like some random guy that's standing over him, which is that guy that basically goes with Craig Robinson's character and it's kind of like, I'd say his buddy in crime that beats up, you know, like does the physical labor, so to speak, and like beats up everyone. And then he talks about an encrypted database and how the room darkens again. So the room was dark and then it like lights up and it shows that guy standing there and then it darkens. So that's pretty cool. Like, I don't know if the word would be imagery besides lighting that they use for this technique, but it was pretty cool. And then it just zooms out and we cut to the first commercial break, like they say. And then we go to tape cartridges, which is in the FBI evidence. And obviously Dominique, the evidence lady, she is at Steel Mountain, which one of the workers that she was talking to was like, yeah, we're going to call this Steel Valley now and stuff. What do you think of the name? And she's just like, no. And then she goes to the bathroom where the Raspberry Pi happened. If you do remember, that is when Elliot, I want to say it was before he was having lunch with Tyrell, and he went to the bathroom and he like, you know, took out the little like air thing, you know how your thermostat goes, and he basically played with the wires and inserted the Raspberry Pi, and that basically caused like the explosion of Steel Mountain when he dropped a tape on something that was like really hot, and he's like, this is how we like completely destroy it, like physically. And then like the digital part was like left to like the Dark Army and other like little things like that. But that was basically the whole how to take down Steel Mountain, like they say, the hive itself. And then we go to Angela, and she walks into her apartment, and Darlena's there, and Darlena's like uploading or downloading something to like a USB or on her laptop. Don't completely remember. And it was basically a surprise visit because she tells her like, I haven't seen you in a long time. And also keep in mind they really haven't seen each other, just like Darlene hadn't seen Elliot, and like etc. etc. No one has really seen each other since 5/9, since the hack, since everything went to shit, like they say. And then she said that the FBI could be on their tails. You know, the FBI is investigating. They didn't probably think about the consequences, like I've been saying. They didn't think about what would happen after, even though Elliot was basically telling Darlene it's going to be the after that's going to be the hardest. Like, it's going to seem hard taking down Evil Corp and everything, but after they do the hack, that's just going to be like survival of the fittest in a way. And then she's like, well, she's no, what about that CD at Allsafe? Like the FBI may, you know, find out about it and it'll be tracked back to you and stuff like this. And they had cleared all the logs and stuff, which is how she was safe. But, you know, it's going to come back to Angela and Elliot because Elliot obviously is the mastermind behind F Society, so to speak. And then Angela basically gave Dark Army access to Evil Corp. Even though she put it in through her boyfriend's computer, Angela was the one. And then when she's basically told like, what do you want and stuff, and then she's like, well, you know, like before and everything, she's like, it's gonna be simple, so like don't, you know, like don't really take it for what it's worth in a sense. But basically she wants her to go to the 23rd floor and, you know, drop like the little USB or physical evidence and walk away. And basically that will hack the FBI, like they say, hopefully, supposedly, allegedly, as they say. And that will be to destroy all the evidence. And then she's like, again, let's hope no one else knows about what kind of involvement Angela had. Because remember, Angela is now like a top person at Evil Corp with that old guy. So it's pretty risky for her, you know, besides losing her job and going to jail. And then we go to Joanna at the restaurant with that guy who she was paying to keep quiet and stuff. And she basically tells him, like, it's risky coming out because she is being photographed and stuff, like, in that world. Like, she is kind of someone of prominence due to being Tyrell's wife. And then he basically says, like, he doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, they know he lied and he knows he's tapped and the FBI is keeping tabs on him. Like, he says it's getting too risky, it's too much and stuff. And she's just like, okay. And then he also mentions, who are we really protecting? Like some scrawny kid in a black hoodie, Elliot, and stuff like this. And then she tells him again, she's like, I don't want any questions, that was the agreement and stuff. And again he says, I am being watched, like I just know, like they're out there, they're out to get me, like they're like hawks, like flying over him and stuff. And then she's basically like, you know what, thank you, like everything will be okay. And when she said that line, I was like, oh my god, Stephanie Corneliuson, the actress who plays Joanna, like her, the way she brings Joanna to life is just so like, ooh, like it's dangerous woman, dangerous woman. And then we go to the FBI and stuff and Evil Corp and everything like this. And Dominique Pirot, the FBI lady, she basically says like, oh, you can't be here. Just some guy sitting in an elevator. And he's like, oh, I work here and stuff. And they escort him out. And she kind of gives me Darlene vibes because she had a lollipop and she's walking around with her sunglasses. And I was like, she kind of reminds me of Darlene. Like, I guess the Darlene of F Society version in the FBI. Or the FBI version of Darlene in F Society, however the wording works and stuff. And then she starts talking to one of her friends, and she has like this dream of a guy in a surgical mask that just kind of stares at her or whatever. And then we flash to Joanna's magazine cover, which is why I said she is a prominence in like the Mr. Robot world, because she's like People magazine. It's like, oh, the fabulous wardrobe of Tyrell Willick's wife or something like that. So that's pretty interesting to see. I guess we probably overlooked, or we didn't think that Joanna and Tyrell were celebrities, so to speak, and Who is Mr. Robot world, or maybe just because she's married to Tyrell, you know, stuff like that. But she was basically on the front cover. And then we go to Darlene and Elliot is basically like, something's wrong because she's quiet. And whenever she's quiet, like he said in a previous episode, he just knows something is wrong. She's trying to hide it and act tough, but in reality, it's kind of slipping away. And then they mentioned the malware and stuff like this, and then Darlene is basically telling Elliot, like, you need to talk to her about the hack and everything. and stuff, and Mr. Robot pops out and he's like, yeah, there's like no time to waste, like we need to act fast. And if you do remember this is kind of when he was doing the Vera thing, when he was at the stairs, I believe, and Mr. Robot was like, like, this is on you, like you don't have to do this, like who cares about Shayla, like we have other things to do. And Elliot's like, no, like I have to do it. But now it seems opposite, like Mr. Robot is saying like, no, you have to do this, like tell Angela this and whatever. And Elliot is kind of being stubborn in the sense of, no, like I'm not going to listen to you, because there is kind of this internal conflict to not listen to Mr. Robot. And then Elliot basically is saying that I did my part and Darlene needs to do her part and stuff like that. So then we go to Beijing, and the FBI lady is there with her friends and all these other people. And they see these dark army people as she's going down the escalators. And we saw that in last week's preview for the next episode, which was tonight's episode. And they just look at her as they're crossing paths on the escalators, opposite ways. And then we see the Asian guy from the finale at this event. White Rose also, as we're thinking. The guy who was talking about how Rome wasn't like built in a day, even though like it burned in a day or something like that. He's like talking about the lyre or whatever the instrument was, the harp maybe. And then she basically, oh, I should say at this meeting, so to speak, they're talking about like the climate attack and everything like this, and she's like, well, we're gonna need encrypted servers and everything like this. And it's like, yes, yes, yes. And then she so boldly just states, when the guy is asking the questions to him, like, well, we need all your intelligence on the Dark Army. We understand they're like a hacking group, blah, blah, blah. We believe they have a part of it, but she basically just boldly says out loud. Because they're like, oh, we know this is a sensitive topic. She's like, Dark Army intelligence, basically. Like, straight to the point. She is out for blood, as they say. And then he's just like, of course. And he's like, Tuesday at 9 a.m., like, you'll be invited to this and stuff. He's like, but, like, I want a reception at my home and stuff. And this later on kind of proves to be something where maybe she got in a little too deep or whatever, or fell down the rabbit hole somehow kind of way. And then we go to Joanna, and she's at home, and she gets some mail, and it sounded like there was bells in there, and I was just like, bells? Like, who is sending her bells? Tyrell. Someone. And then she gets a little emotional when she finally opens it, and it is a silver baby rattle. And if you don't remember, basically when the law came looking for Tyrell, her way of, like, I guess, to distract from it was basically when she was eating, like, pickles or something like this. She took, like, the little fork, and she basically just stabbed it up her vagina, like, broke her water, basically, to give birth prematurely to her baby, which was a save for her, but, I mean, the baby could have died. But that's Joanna for you. And then we go to Ray and Elliot at the park again, and then there's the pyro girl, like, burning stuff in, like, her red wagon. I don't know, she's crazy. Like the new Shayla, but crazier. And then he's like, oh, like, let's not hesitate and stuff. And he's like, I parted not on the best of terms with my previous guy and stuff like this. And Mr. Robot pops up again to say, call Angela and stuff. And then we kind of go to their dog, and we're like, is the dog dying and stuff like this, like, you're kind of wondering. And then this kind of reminded me of, like, where's Flipper? Because Elliot had the dog that he basically stole from his therapist's boyfriend, cheater guy, and we're just like, okay, so where's Flipper now? But who knows? And then we go to Joanna, she's singing to her baby, and then the actor Jeremy Holm plays the FBI kind of agent, but not really, kind of guy that she's with. He basically shows up at the recording and how he's trying to track the package and Tyrell in a way and stuff, like find out where he is. And he also killed the guy who they were protecting, whose money they were giving, because you do remember in one of the previous episodes, he basically said that they're running out of funds and they don't know how long they're going to have to keep him quiet. And she did go to that guy whose wife Tyrell choked to death. And she said, like, oh, I haven't gotten this package, like, I need the money, I have a baby. And he's like, oh, the baby will get what it, like, deserves, nothing and stuff. So Joanna had to figure something out in her crazy, twisted way, but that's why we love her. And he also framed it as a burglar and stuff, and he put in, like, codeine or something in him. And he was basically paralyzed, and he's like, I made it look like there was a struggle, and, like, gunshots and stuff, and he shot him in the chest. This is kind of the interesting, dark, enticing part when Joanna asks, like, well, did he look at you when you, like, shot him and stuff? And he's like, well, yes, and stuff. And he asked, so why was it necessary to drug him, and why wasn't I just, like they say, the hitman that just went, killed him, that's it. And she basically says that there's no time to process or understand anything when you're just killed. Like, you're dead. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts, so to speak, like that. And she says, basically, I killed him. Well, she had him get killed, drugged and paralyzed, and I guess trapped in a way to have answers. Like, she said, he died with answers. Like, he knows why he's being killed. He understands why he was being killed because either they couldn't pay for him or they were done for him or they didn't have any use for him, or like how he kept exclaiming that he was tapped and stuff. He was kind of like a loose end, and Joanna just needed to cut it off, like they say. And then she says, if any other way, like we had did it, just killing him bluntly, doing something else without, I guess, letting him die with dignity in the sense of letting him die with answers. She says, otherwise, we're just ruthless murderers. And she's just like, thank you. And she goes back to singing to her baby. And I was just like, Joanna's crazy, but in a cool way. And then we go to Angela at the bar with her ex-boyfriend, if we all know how that went down. He was cheating on her and stuff. And he gives her a resume for a job because obviously Angela has a job, like, a very good job at Evil Corp and stuff. And he's basically like, oh, like, if there's an opening and stuff. And she's like, I'll see what I can do. So we'll see how that happens. And they bring up Gideon and how the person who killed him thought like it was a death conspiracy and stuff like this, and how even people think like Gideon could not be dead and like it was just a death conspiracy in general and blah blah blah, and like crisis actors and stuff. And then he asks her, do you think like the CD had anything to do? And then he kind of like moves his phone a bit, and his phone is just like sitting on the table from like they say beginning of the scene. And I was like, is the phone recording and stuff? And then Angela finds out the phone is recording, and she basically asks, like, are you with the FBI? Are you working with the FBI? Like, what is this? And stuff like that. And then he's like, oh, well, my lawyer told me to, like, record anything suspicious and blah, blah, blah. And again, persistent as she is, but in the right way, and for her defense, she's like, did you talk with the FBI? Like, she needs to know this. And he's like, yes, and stuff. Like, I told him about the CD guy, and they, like, made sketches and all, like, the stuff that they have to do and everything like this. And then she basically like puts his phone in the beer and stuff, and then she's just like done. She just leaves. And then we go into kind of an interesting part. So we're in China. I want to say it is a home reception. It could be like some kind of banquet or something. But the FBI lady, Dominique Pirot, she needs the bathroom and stuff. She sets her drink down, and she's like walking around like, oh, you know where the bathroom is and stuff. And then she walks into a hallway that is just full of clocks, which reminded me of kind of Alice through the Looking Glass with time and everything like this. And basically White Rose walks in and stuff like this, and he's like, oh, like, I'm surprised, like, you found this place, like, you're far from the party and everything like that, like, that kind of small talk that people kind of do. And then he's like, oh, well, like, what draws your attention to, like, this specific clock and stuff? And then she's just like, oh, like, like, we have one of those in our home. And he's like, well, when I was in Germany, this is, like, a one of a kind, and I paid a lot for it. And then she's like, well, we bought ours at Kmart, and, like, honest salesman, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, well, I'm Dominique and stuff. And then he tells her something about, like, a stage and, like, basically acting. And it kind of reminded me of, I want to say Shakespeare is a person that probably kind of did something like this or mentioned it. And then she's like, so you basically have all of these to remind you of your immortality. Like, time is of the essence, and how White Rose, like, hacks time and blah, blah, blah. And, like, also White Rose has, like, a double life because, like, White Rose is, like, the Asian Caitlyn Jenner, but we love her. And then, he's like basically like, oh, this is to keep moving. And I was thinking, is this his bug? Is this like his paranoia? Like he's gonna die soon? Like there's not enough time for White Rose to do whatever like they're planning to do, or like everything has to be done at the exact same time, the right time, or not like, and then everything goes to shit. So it's stuff like this. And then he asked her, so why did you join the FBI and everything like this? And then she's like, oh, well, she's like, like I was mad at like the selfishness of people, but also at the same time she was very intrigued, and it brought some kind of, I don't want to say passion as a word, but like just interest to her. So she's like, it's basically like a win-win situation. Like she's disgusted by that selfishness, but at the same time she's intrigued and she wants to know more, which is again her reason for joining the FBI. So he's like, oh, there's something basically in my office that will intrigue you more. I guess he's trying to find out more again about Dominique Pirot, the FBI agent, top lady of the 5-9 hack and everything. And also because she did ask about the Dark Army. And then he shows her like a painting with faces from like, I want to say it was like from a revolution or something. And she's also like, how is it like revolutionaries bring us the best art and stuff, but it's always like the worst people, so to speak, and everything like this. And then he basically again asks her about, so what is like the real story about joining the FBI? And she mentions that it is personal, and it looked like she was about to cry or something, but she didn't. And then she's like, well, she was like in a relationship, and she was in the last like semester of her law school and everything like this, and she said that she was at dinner with the guy and stuff, and he basically proposed, and she got up to like use the bathroom, and she like never looked back on it, so she basically refused the proposal. And then she just became the FBI lady that she was born to be, like they say. And it's just like, I never thought I'd be telling this to the Minister of State Security, and she's like, this will make like a fun Thanksgiving story and stuff. And he's just like, oh, like, haha, like, yeah, and stuff. So he's like trying to figure her out. She may be a little ignorant of that fact, but this is who is Mr. Robot. A lot of people don't know, like, they say what's going on with each other. Just like Angela didn't know she was being recorded, and like Darlene and this, and like the Dark Army and Ray and Elliot. You know, there's a lot of like unknowns in this series in general. And then he shows her clothing from like some dynasty era, and he's like, oh, all this like women's clothing is for my sister when she comes into town and stuff like this, which we all know it isn't for the sister. It is like, you know, Caitlyn Jenner kind of a thing and stuff. And she's like, oh, she's like, well, that's cool and stuff. She's like, I never touched anything so beautiful, like such amazing clothes that are meant for royalty and blah blah blah. And then he asks her, do you ever wonder how the world would be if 5'9" never happened? Like, if it just didn't go through, didn't fall through, didn't complete. Like they say, like, a F Society didn't succeed at Steel Mountain, F Society didn't do this. Like, obviously, like, I'm not saying those exact words, but, you know, just deducing all the points that we saw in the first series and every episode leading up to 5'9", we as the audience can pick that apart. And then he talks about alternate realities and stuff, and then she's just like, well, not really. And he's like, well, they intrigue me and stuff. And then all these alarms are going off from the clocks, and she's like, oh, like, I see you are, like, really, like, into time and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's like, I must go and stuff like this. And he says, well, let me just escort you back to the party. And it was basically, like, an odd, I guess, meeting. But that was, I think, the longest scene in this episode. So that does show us that this may foreshadow something between White Rose and Dominique Perot. Or maybe some kind of corruption in the FBI, which obviously does exist in the real world. But we are seeing this in this episode, in this series, in this season, that there is going to be big parts, probably with bargaining and stuff with the FBI, or like, you know, FBI working with the Dark Army, FBI working with the F Society, maybe Evil Corp. Maybe we'll find more evil secrets about Evil Corp, but who knows as this series progresses in this season. But then we go to Elliot and Angela and then Darlene, how basically is right to involve and place that device on the floor and stuff like this. And I guess Angela's basically coming to terms that Darlene's plan is right. Darlene's plan is the way to go. That all she has to do is basically go place that little device on the floor. You know, that'll equal that the evidence will be destroyed by the FBI. They'll hack the FBI and everything will be done. And, you know, hopefully just wiped from existence. And then she does say if she is caught that she will do a plea bargain and everything like this. Like, I'll lose my job and everything. But, like, what's the worst that could happen besides jail? Which obviously in this world, I mean, she could get killed. Who knows? And then she basically said that she was waiting for the conversation with Elliot to decide, because she knows, like, Elliot wouldn't just let her, like, run into something blindly or whatever if Darlene, like, didn't have the right intentions, or, like, if he didn't know or anything like this. And they talk about that train platform, which was shown at the beginning of this, like, as a recap in a way. And that was basically after the cemetery when he was hallucinating and he visited his childhood home and stuff like this. And then basically how Elliot wanted to be okay. And Angela was basically like, just take care of yourself, Elliot, and stuff like this. But obviously, Elliot's getting into a lot of trouble now. And then she's just, I guess, having this, I wouldn't say realization really, but it's just like a remembrance of like, man, from that day, look at what's happening now. You know, like the FBI is on both of them, basically. Like, they're both going to be, like they say, the head honchos of this case, in the sense, like, if they both get caught, it obviously had a lot to do with the bring down of Evil Corp and 5'9" and this whole global financial crisis, like they say. But basically, Elliot is, well, I still see Mr. Robin and stuff, and my dead father is standing right behind you. And she looks like, what? And then she's like, well, she's like, I can be your friend and stuff, and like, just help and anything like this, like, I'll be there, like Jackson vibe, I'll be there. And then he asked about Cordy, which is, I had mentioned, I think it was the second part of the premiere of the first 2 episodes. I was like, oh, does she have a fish like Elliot and stuff? But then I'm like, okay, like, if Angela's taking care of the fish, where's Flipper still? And then that was like never answered, but Cordy is doing good, so that's all fun and games, like they say. And then we go to Darlene and this random guy, and then he's like, oh, like this FBI thing, and like you're just gonna bail out and whatever and stuff. She's like, you know what, just like take the crew to the Capitol and just prepare for what you have to do and stuff. And he's like, oh, like I'm gonna make you proud and stuff. She's like, just shut up and go. And then she gets a call. I didn't see from who. I don't think it showed from who. And then she's just like, oh, when? And then it cuts off, and we see Elliot and the RT guy, who is basically the guy who got beat up, that Ray and that like buff guy who beats people up were. And then he's like, oh, like what happened to you? Like he's typing it on the thing while they're like doing like the codes or whatever. And then he was like, why like this guy? Like why, if he has like this guy who knows his stuff, like why would Ray come to Elliot? But then also Elliot doesn't remember the conversation that he had with Ray, so that also does, I guess, draw a blank to Elliot himself. And then he's basically typing all these questions and stuff, and then he's just like, why, like, you know, why do we gotta do this, basically? And the guy is basically telling him, like, you know, just shut up, like, let's just finish this and get it over with and stuff. And he asks him, like, did he hurt you and stuff? Like, what's the real deal that's going on? He's kind of wondering, I guess, what did I get myself involved into? What did I just walk into? And stuff. And then he also, like, types on the thing. He's like, so you really don't know what happens on the site and stuff. And if you do remember, Ray did tell Elliot, don't go snooping around, just do what you have to do. He's like, because my business is very important to me. And stuff like this. And then he's just like, and the guy is basically like, well, he's like, think about it. He's like, it's near impossible to get an account on that site and stuff like this, and it's very secure, and it's very this and that. In a way, obviously, Elliot can basically hack into anything, as we do remember from the first season. And then Mr. Robot pops up, and he kind of just, like, goes like that on the keyboard, and that made me laugh so hard. Because I just imagine, like, as they're filming that scene, like, Christian Slater and, like, Rami Malek just, like, doing that, and just, like, how Christian Slater just did that. But I don't know, that was just a thing that made me, like, they say, LOL. And then he's just like, how bad is it? And then he goes to the website and stuff, and then he starts talking about, like, an if-then thing. And we basically see that that website is full of human trafficking, drugs, like getting a hitman and stuff, and it was kind of weird that there was no idea of that website in a way that Elliot is thinking, like, does Ray know what this website is? Like, does Ray know what he's involved with and stuff? And he's like, is he a criminal? Like, does he have two halves? Like, which half is stronger and stuff? Is it the evil side of Ray? Does Ray have a good side? Because, you know, Elliot is, I guess, the same in a way how he has Mr. Robot and himself. And Ray even told him, like, oh, I know, like, there's parts of you that are basically battling it out. And that's why he did give him that chess board and, like, the game to play, and Elliot was playing against himself, but there was no way for Elliot really to win, because, like, his therapist told him, for better or for worse, Mr. Robot has to stay there, and Mr. Robot is a part of him and stuff. And then he's like, maybe I can help those people on, like, you know, the website and stuff, but Mr. Robot was telling him, like, ignore it, like, we have bigger battles, and we have other battles to fight and stuff, and Elliot is basically thinking, like, well, I can destroy him in, like, 2 minutes and stuff, and, like, he's like, it's us or, like, those people in the pictures and stuff. And Elliot is a good person, because remember, he always said, like, he hacks just to help the people he loves, or just to help people in need. Obviously, with Legend 5-9, just erase debt for everyone and stuff like that. So we basically find out that Ray, in a way, runs the black market of evil. Again, human trafficking, drugs, etc., etc. There's a 17-year-old on that website who we saw, basically a sex slave. And then we see Joanna, she's with the baby, and she gets a phone call, and she's like, is it Tyrell and stuff? And we hear sirens in the background. It was like an ambulance or a fire truck, but I was thinking, like, maybe, like, that phone call was whatever, you know, and I was thinking, oh no, like, maybe they're gonna get Joanna, maybe he set her up for some other reason and stuff. And I was also thinking, I said, maybe they found the body of that guy, but again, who knows? And then we go to Angela, and she gets in a cab, she gets another cab, she goes to a subway, she's just looking around, make sure she's not followed and stuff. And I was like, okay, either she's going to Evil Corp to do what she has to do, or who knows. But then she gets to this place, and it's Darlene at the house, and there's, like, an Evil Corp logo at that smart house, like they say. And then she's like, were you followed? Did you take my route? Like, where's your cell phone and stuff? She's like, no, I wasn't, you know, like, my phone's at home and everything. She basically tells her, well, there's no more bullshit from here on, like, this is some serious stuff. She basically joined F Society, and I told Portia Doubleday on Twitter, I was like, I feel like Angela's gonna be something, like, really, she's gonna do something badass, and she favored it and stuff like this, and I was just like, yeah, she was basically hinting that I was right and stuff. And then you see Jack Black, Malala, and Darlene, they're all just sitting on the table, basically welcoming Angela to F Society. And then we go to the FBI lady and her friend, they're walking in and stuff like this, and then he's like, oh, like, he showed me his sister's clothes and stuff, and then he's like, oh, that's weird, like, he doesn't have a sister and stuff. She's like, oh, and stuff. And then there's a shooting in the office, and I was thinking, I said, okay, maybe as they were there in China, I said those two people that crossed from the Dark Army are the ones that were sent there. And they said they'll get back on this day. You kill the people that were at the party and stuff like this. Um, I'm pretty sure her friend got shot. Like everybody is getting killed and stuff, and it looked like it was two guys that were doing it. So again, that's why I say maybe it was those two guys on the escalators and those Dark Army dragon masks of theirs. And she's hiding behind a desk, and she's just like, "Oh my god," like she's getting shot at and stuff. And then like it cuts off at one point, and it's just Elliot, and he gets abducted basically, or so it seems. And basically, Ray found out that he looked where he was not supposed to on the website and stuff. And he's like, "What are you doing?" and stuff. And Ray's like, I told you not to look, everything like this. And then he's like, you should know, like, is the guy who beats people up. He's like, you should know not to trust like a rat or something. And it's like a piece of like bloody hair, like a scalp or something. I really don't know whose like hair it would be, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't the other guy. Maybe it is Elliot's. Who knows? But basically, he beats him up, and that is the end of this episode. And then we do see in the previews for the next episode that Elliot is probably going to get beat up again. It seems like when he pushed himself off the pier, that kind of like a situation, but obviously other people are actually involved. And stuff like this. We may get to see more of Tyrell, and we may see Tyrell, who knows, we may see more of Joanna. She is a very dangerous woman, and also we are going to obviously see more of Angela and how she develops in this series, as well in this season specifically, and as the episodes that come, how she's basically going to be involved with F Society, and I'll keep on tweeting them and be like, oh, like trying to get like a little favorite and stuff like this, and be like, see what's going on. But again, please like, rate, share, subscribe, and comment. It would really help me out, you guys, and it really means a lot. And again, if you want me to message or email any of them, like I can ask them about, hey, need like Mr. Robot Funko Pop. I think that'd be really cool, because obviously they've done Comic Con for 2 years, or doing South by Southwest, and maybe at South by Southwest, if I can meet them, I will like ask them and stuff like this. Hopefully I'll go this spring semester when it comes up. Hopefully I get like spring break and South by Southwest falls on the same days, because if not, I'm very sad. And I know they're just gonna have something cool. But again, that is it for this recap, and I want to say hi to Rami Malek. Stay safe and God bless you guys. And again, watch the Careful Murder of the Bourgeoisie or something like this, or the Massacre. Watch the VR experience, watch the after show and stuff like that. So again, I'll try to link those down below. If I don't, please remind me in the comments down below to link them. But hi to Rami Malek, stay safe and God bless.